Hey, Perry Jeffries here, the Entrepreneur CFO, coming to you with the first part of our webinar series for the month of September, Life Insurance Awareness Month. This presentation is how to protect your nest egg during a stock market crash. And I can't wait to show you how life insurance or insurance can actually help grow your nest egg and also to protect your nest egg. So we're going to just jump right into our presentation here. Share screen. Outstanding. Let's go ahead and get into the slide here. Perfect. Okay, so, and if you're joining us now, feel free to kind of just, write your questions down. We're going to cover a lot of information here and jump right into it right now. So, first of all, how to protect your nest egg in a stock market crash. Well, before we get into a lot of the information here, I want to do a quick introduction of myself. So who is this that's presenting to you today? Well, again, my name is Perry Jeffries, the Entrepreneur CFO. You can find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, all of the above at the ECFO, or just Google Perry Jeffries or Entrepreneur CFO. You should be able to pull us right up. And who's Perry? So I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about myself, but I believe it's important to at least for you to understand who's delivering your message to you today. Okay. So Perry Jeffries, I have a CRPC, Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor through the College of Financial Planning. Also to a CPFA designation, so a Certified Plan Fiduciary Advisor. So those designations just simply says that I'm an expert at what I do. Moving right along here. 15 years experience in the financial service industry. I've held positions with 3 Fortune 500 companies. I currently hold a Series 7, Series 66, and a life, health, and annuities license. So Series 7 is a stockbroker license. A Series 66 is an investment advisor license. And life, health, and annuities license allows me to offer insurance and annuities to my clients. Again, the CRPC, Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor designation through the College of Financial Planning. That designation pretty much just says that I'm an expert in the financial planning retirement space. I also have what's called a CPFA, so that's a Certified Pension Fiduciary Advisor. So in this economic climate that we're in right now, where clients are more sensitive to the type of advice that they receive, I have a fiduciary advisor certification to, kind of adhere to those needs. So always doing what's in the best interest of our clients through the National Association of Plan Advisors. I'm a Daymond John Rise and Grind ambassador. So if you're familiar with Daymond John, founder of FUBU, as well as the People's Shark on the show, the Shark Tank. In addition to that, I am part of the John Maxwell International Leadership Team as a speaker and coach. So just a little background on myself here. So moving right along here. So when you think about the stock market crash, and everybody has some concern about, investing in the stock market or investing in period, whether it's in their 401k, an IRA, the stock market, and a brokerage account, a lot of the concerns that people have is around, hey, I don't want to lose money. And one of the reasons they have this concern is because they really don't understand the money cycle. So after we start to understand the money cycle as the first thing we're going to discuss here, then you have a better idea of how to protect your money. So what is the money cycle if you've never heard of it? So the money cycle has 3 phases to it: the accumulation phase, the preservation phase, and the distribution phase. So the accumulation phase. So let's say that you're planning for retirement and you're, 20 years old, where you're in the phase of accumulation, which means you're just trying to grow that nest egg and get it as large as you possibly can. Okay. So you're just trying to save and invest as much as possible. So let's say 30, 40 years down the road, you went from 20 years old and now you're, let's say you're 50 or you're 60 and you think about, hey, I plan on retiring here in the next couple of years. Well, then if that's the case, let's see here. Boom. No, bear with me here. Okay, perfect. If that's the case, then you need to start thinking about how are you going to protect your money. So you're not focused on growing the money more. You're not talking about how do I protect this nest egg. And then third you have here is the distribution phase. So this is where after you've grown the money, you've protected the money, now you're going to figure out how to distribute the money. So when we say distribute the money, that's in the forms of how do you now start taking that money as an income source. Okay. So unfortunately, a lot of people, some people make the mistake of going directly from the accumulation phase to the distribution phase. So they're growing their money and then they try to use the money without actually getting into the preservation phase. And that's a huge mistake. So these are the biggest dangers that you're going to face with your investments or your retirement. It's not what you think it is. So, market risk. This is what most people are afraid of. Hey, I don't want to invest, or I'm afraid to invest because I think the market is going to go up and down. Well, you're absolutely right. The market is going to go up and down. That's what the market does. So you plan for that. And we're going to show you near the end of the presentation how you plan for that. But that's one of the biggest risks that you face. One of the other biggest risks that you face is interest rate risk. So interest rate risk. If you were to have a conversation with, a parent or a grandparent, or if you're fortunate enough to have a great grandparent alive, and they'll tell you stories about how, when they were growing up, a loaf of bread was a quarter and a gallon of gas, was 15 cents. Well, we do know that interest rates are going to keep increasing, right? Because you have a thing that's called inflation. So if inflation is increasing around 4% and your money's only growing by 1%, then you have interest rate risk. And if interest rates go up, then the values of some investments may actually go down. So that could be risky to you. But the thing that's posing the most risk to your retirement and your nest egg is not market risk, which many people think it is. It's not interest rate risk. It's sequence of returns risk. So you may ask, Perry, what in the world is sequence of returns risk? But this is what it is. So I have a chart right here. Hopefully you guys can see it. And we're comparing Mr. Smith to Mrs. Jones. So both Mr. Smith and Miss Jones both have $100,000. They both invested in the exact same account. Well, they decided, hey, we're going to start taking money from our account. So they've grown their money through accumulation. They got into the preservation stage, and now they're going to start distributing the money. So distributing money, they're going to start taking this money as income. So they're using a basic rule of thumb of they're taking 5% a year from their $100,000 investment. Well, if we look at Mr. Smith, he starts taking his $5,000 a year. And after year one, his account's down to 92. Well, if you notice here, Mr. Smith's account, after a few short years, is gone completely to zero. Where Miss Jones, same account, same strategy, taking out the same $5,000 a year, after several years, almost 30 years or so, her account has grown to 591,000. So you may ask, well, Perry, what happened? Well, they're invested in the exact same account. The difference is when Mr. Jones started taking money out, the market had a couple downturns. Now, keep in mind, it wasn't down a lot. It wasn't down like 2007, 2009. It was down 2%, 2.6% this year, 6% here, 12% here, 2% here. It wasn't down a lot, but it was down. So it's kind of like when you're taking money, think about it like this. If you were going to a water fountain, a water dispenser at your office, and if you're taking money out the front end, but there's a hole in the back, so now you're taking money out the front, but also money's leaking out the back, that water jug is going to deplete itself extremely fast, right? So the deal is Mr. Smith didn't do anything wrong. Mrs. Jones, it's not that Mrs. Jones did anything right. Just the timing of when they started taking money out their account hurt them. So you may ask the question like, okay, well, Perry, how do you, nobody has a crystal ball. How do you protect yourself against that? I'm so glad you asked. I'm going to share that with you. So another concept we want you to understand here is understanding the new math. So you may be like, well, okay, Perry, now what are you talking about? Well, if you've never worked with me before and you're not a current client, you may not know that I majored in mathematics with a minor in biology. And I love math. Why? Because math is the same in any language. 2 plus 2 is going to be 4 in any language. Well, when you get to investment math, it's not as clear cut, and you need to understand this math. So let's go walk through it here. Imagine, again, going back to the example of Mr. Smith and Ms. Jones here, you had $100,000 in principal. So let's say, you've grown your 401k or your account up to $100,000. And then let's say you experience a 30% loss. So you start off with you got $100,000, the market is down 30%. So how much do you have left? Easy math, right? $70,000. That's easy to figure out. The question is, how much return in the market do you need to get back to your 100,000? So I'll let you think about that. What would you have to do to get back to where you started? So you start off with 100,000, the market decreased your account, corrected and took your account from 100,000 to 70,000. How much return percentage would you need to get back to 100,000? Well, is it 30%? You lost 30%, right? So you need 30% to get back to where you started, correct? No, that's not how investments work. If you run the math on that, oh Lord, let's get back to PowerPoint closed down. Let's get back to where we were. We're just about to get into the good stuff, y'all. Bear with me here. Bear with me here 1 second, group. Had a little technical difficulty here, but that's all right, because we're going to get right back to it. Okay. Let's get back to our screen share. Yes. Got to be flexible. Sometimes technology is on your side. Sometimes it is not. But that is all right, because we get right back to where we were. So bear with me here. We want to get back to the new math. Perfect. Okay. So new math. Getting back into that whole piece. 30%. Nope. You would actually need 43% gain in the market to get back to your 100%. So you start off with $100,000. The market corrected itself by 30%. Your $100,000 went to 70,000. Oh no. Well, you may be thinking, well, I just need the market to come back 30% to get to back where it started. That's not correct. You actually need the market to go up 43% to get back to where you started. That's why it's so important that you protect your money, because you may not be able to get back to where you started, okay? Especially if you're taking money out during retirement. So what about a 50% loss? If your account was cut in half by 50%, how much would the market have to give you to get back to where you started, right? So how do we protect against that? We use what's called our bucket plan strategy. So if you want to protect your nest egg, you want to make sure that you divvy this up and you protect it this way. So when we put financial plans together for our clients, a financial plan is not, hey, buy 80% stock, or hey, buy this bond, or invest in, whole life insurance. All of those are components of a financial plan. But a true financial plan, what we've done is taken this concept from one of our partners and use it to help our clients actually protect their assets and give them peace of mind. So the way it works is like this. You separate your money into 3 different buckets: a now bucket, a soon bucket, a later on bucket. That now bucket is the money that you need for 0 to 12 months. So this may be your emergency fund, planned expenses. So if you're not at retirement age, you might not need 12 months of expenses in there, but you probably need, 1 to 3 months, or depending on who you talk to, maybe 6 months of expenses. I was speaking to a young lady the other day and she said, "Hey, Perry, I want to invest in stock." I said, "Well, do you have an emergency fund?" No, well, we're not investing in any stock, because the first thing you need to do is make sure you have this liquid money here for planned expenses. So if you plan on anything, any goals that you have that's under a year, you should not invest those dollars. Those dollars should stay in a emergency fund, a money market account, something along those lines. Me personally, I use some online banking because I get better interest rates that way. But you keep that money liquid. Your next bucket is your soon bucket. So in this soon bucket, this is money that you need maybe in 2 to 10 years. So, hey, Perry, just, had a baby, and the baby's, 7 years old. We want to put together a college plan. Okay, well, they're going to college in less than 10 years. So this will fall into the soon bucket. In this bucket, you want to be more conservative and not too aggressive with those dollars. Why? A lot can happen in 2 to 10 years. We could see a market correction. We could see a market crash. We could see a huge market gain. But you don't want to put this money at risk if you need it in 2 to 10 years. So what you want to do is still have some investments that can keep up with inflation, but not necessarily be extremely risky. Okay. And then you have your third bucket, which is your later bucket. Your later bucket is where you can be more aggressive. So this is where you can have a lot of your stock plays or your cryptocurrencies and things of that nature, because that's your longer term money. So even though we know without a shadow of a doubt that the market is going to go up and down, we also understand that if you look at the market over a long period of time, it trends upward over a long period of time. So if we know these dollars are earmarked for 10 years or later, who cares if the market is crashing? Because now you're able to buy some of those same investments on sale. So if there was a sale at the mall, do you want to go to the mall and pay full price, or would you rather go to the mall and buy some stuff and pay, 30% off, 25% off, 50% off? Me personally, I like to buy stuff on sale. I hate paying full price. So for dollars that are allocated for 10 years or later, who cares if the market is crashing? You're buying stuff at a discount. So when you put your plan together, you have the now, soon, and later on bucket. So as a quick recap, now bucket, money that you need in the next, a year or less, stays in cash, period. Soon bucket, money that you might need, in 2 to 10 years, that's where we put those dollars. So still want to have those dollars invested, but we put them in something that's more conservative. And then later on money that we don't plan on touching for 10 years or later, that's when we can be a little bit more aggressive with those dollars. So let me stop here and kind of share a true story with you. So I remember when I was working with another firm, I was working with a Swiss bank, and I had clients over at General Motors. And I would talk to my General Motors clients, and a lot of them would have all of their stock in GM stock, all of their retirement plan, all of their 401k in GM stock. And I would tell them, I was like, that's pretty risky to have 100% of your 401k in GM stock. And what did they tell me? "Oh, Perry, we're not worried about it. GM has been around forever. It's not going anywhere. We don't know what those other investments. We're going to keep it all in GM stock." Well, do y'all remember what happened in 2007 or 2009? GM went bankrupt. So those individuals who had 100% of their money, aggressive money, in GM stock, lost almost every dime of their 401k, and now they're just happy to live off, a portion of the pension that was still left. Now, let that sink in for a second. So if we were sitting down with that client and I were to ask him, "So, Mr. Client, this is the money that's inside your 401k. You have, $500,000 in GM stock. When do you plan on retiring?" Well, if they said to me, "Well, Perry, I plan on retiring in the next 5 years," that means that a portion of those dollars should have been invested in the soon bucket, not in 100% stock. 100% stock is a risky scenario. They would have been in a more conservative scenario, or have those dollars protected, or have some insurance around those dollars. So if the market crashed, they weren't worried about the portion that was left in the ladder, because the money that they would need in the next 2 to 5 years would have been in the soon bucket. All right, that makes sense to everybody? All right, cool. And make sure you keep your questions, because I'm going to take questions here at the end, or type your questions in, and I'll answer those questions, and you'll see the answers on the recording. All right. So what type of accounts do you have? You know, this gets into another part of the financial planning side of things. If, you know, do you have a taxable account? You know, are you paying taxes on those dollars? Those are okay. Do you have tax deferred accounts? So those are like your 401ks and IRAs. And then you have tax-free accounts. So when you think about those buckets, you have the now, soon, and later bucket. And within those buckets, we need to determine what type of accounts do we have in there. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole, get into the power of zero, how do you get to a 0% tax bracket during retirement, but just understand you're going to have different types of accounts in there. So this right here is, we're going to spend a little time discussing this. I have people ask me all the time, hey, Perry, what's a good stock? Hey, Perry, should I invest in stocks or not? Or what should I invest in? Well, there's a study and a concept called, you know, asset allocation. You may have heard it before. And all asset allocation is the percentage of money you have in cash versus bonds versus stock. Okay. So you don't make money in the market with market timing. And I know there's a lot of people going to disagree with me, because you have people who are trading Forex and they're making like $1,000 every 2 minutes. And that's fine. And that's a strategy. That's not a financial plan, because I deal with math. Studies show that almost 92% of a portfolio's return is based upon its asset class mix. So in the same study, individual stock selection, so that's like, oh, I'm a great stock picker, or market time, like, oh, I timed it perfect, accounted for less than 7% of the diversified portfolio's return. So understand, it's not about picking a great stock. It's about having the right percentage of cash versus bonds versus stocks inside your portfolio. So inside your portfolio, so whether this is in the soon bucket or the later on bucket, what really drives the return of that isn't did you pick a great stock, is do you have the right amount of each of these different asset classes? So let's talk about it real quick. Here's an example. Let's say you want an aggressive portfolio, because this is for your later on bucket. Then you might be 80% stock, 15% bonds, 5% cash. Stocks is going to be your equities, where you're going to get your growth. Typically, your bonds are more conservative, and obviously your cash has no risk. So that would be an example, quote unquote, of an aggressive portfolio. Let's say that it was a moderate portfolio. Okay, inside that moderate portfolio, you know, maybe this is how you invest inside your soon bucket. Maybe that's a 60% stock, 40% bonds. So not extremely aggressive, but not extremely conservative. And then you have your super conservative, which here's an example, might be 20% stock, 75% bonds, 5% cash. So these are just examples. These percentages can vary, but just to kind of give you an idea of that's what's really determined the success of a portfolio. It's not that you pick a great stock. It's, do you have the right percentage of stocks, mix versus bonds and things of that nature. Okay. So let's talk about this. So now we kind of have an idea. So we understand that, what's going to kill your portfolio is your sequence of returns risk, right? It's, taking money out of your account or distributing those dollars when the market is going down. That's what's going to really kill your portfolio. And then you also have market risk. Okay, the market is going to go down, going to go up and down. Absolutely, we know that. That's what the market does. So there's no sense in being surprised for it. Best thing to do is just plan for it. Plan for the market to go down. Plan for the market to go up. But you plan for volatility in the market, because that's what the market is going to do. Okay. And then we have, the concept of now, soon, and later. So just keep that in mind. If you just implement the now, soon, and later strategy for your investments, well, then you're only going to have a small percentage of your monies even subject to the fluctuation in the market, because you've already planned on how to protect your money in your first two buckets, in the now and soon bucket. So your exposure is just in the later on bucket, which would be a small percentage of your money. Okay. Well, how also could you insure your portfolio? So it's Life Insurance Awareness Month, right? And we're talking about life insurance, and you got a lot of folks out there talking about, difference between term and whole. We're going to talk about that this month. But more importantly, we're going to talk about how a strategy that we use to help our clients protect their portfolio. So you heard me mention at the very beginning of the webinar that we have some clients who, when the market crashed between 2007 and 2009, did not lose a dime of their money, actually made money during that time. And you may be wondering, like, well, Perry, how did they do that? Well, let's talk about things that we insure. If you have a home, whether you own it or you rent it, it's a really good chance that you have some type of homeowner's insurance or renter's insurance, right? And why do you have that insurance? Because if a disaster was to happen to your home, you would have insurance to be able to replace it. The same thing with your car. It's illegal to drive without car insurance. But why do you want to have it? If something were to happen to your car, you could replace it. You could repair it. If you were at fault for an accident, you would have some insurance to help repair or replace somebody else's car, right? Now, cell phones. All of us have these. Question for you. Do you have insurance on your cell phone? I hope you do. Matter of fact, I hope you never have to experience not having insurance on your cell phone, because that happened to me once, and I was laughing with a friend of mine about that here recently, where you drop your phone. It's like, why didn't I get your insurance on my phone? But why do you have insurance on your phone? In case of a disaster. Do we know when it's going to come? No. Do we know when it's going to happen? No. But it's insurance for the unknown. So why don't we do that with our retirement and our investment accounts? You may be asking, like, well, Perry, how in the world do you do that? Great. I'm going to share that with you. Have you ever heard of an annuity? So it's a super broad term. So, people say, I don't know what annuity is and whatnot. So in short, read this definition here. Annuity is a financial product typically used by investors to save, tax defer for retirement, or to generate regular income payments, helping to replace a paycheck in retirement. Annuities are insurance contracts whose payments are guaranteed by the company issuing the contract. So think about it like this. If you have insurance on your car, that insurance company is guaranteeing that if something happens to your car, that they're going to replace, a portion of that car. That homeowner's insurance is saying that, hey, if something were to happen to your home, we're going to replace it up to this amount. So they're guaranteeing that if something or disaster or an unknown happens, that they'll step in and help that out. So that's what an annuity is. It's an agreement between you and an insurance company. So those insurance companies could be Pacific, MetLife, Allianz, John Hancock, many more. It's a ton of insurance companies that offer annuities. But where the confusion is there are a lot of different kind of annuities, which I'm not going to get into this with this webinar. I'll have another webinar for that. But the power of having an annuity is that, imagine taking your investment. So whether it's your IRA, your soon money, your brokerage account, whatever the case may be, imagine taking that investment and then putting some insurance around it, some guarantees around it, some protection around it. So when you have an annuity, they're going to guarantee something. They're either going to guarantee, your principal. They're going to guarantee that you don't lose any money. They may guarantee your future income. They may guarantee a death benefit. So just like the insurance that you get on your car, it's not just one type of insurance. You can get multiple kinds of coverages to get, So you may have, pay for, to get a rental car if your car, gets in an accident or has to get towed away. Or maybe you're getting, a service where they're picking up on the road. These are all things that you're paying for within that insurance contract. So kind of the same with your annuity. So you can choose to have different protection on that. But let me give you a better idea. So many of you guys, if you know somebody who, retired and either from the city or the state or, a company that still have pension plans, a pension plan is an annuity. Typically, when they fill out their paperwork, it asks them, would you like the annuity payment? The annuity payment is a guaranteed fixed amount of money that comes out to you. So a lot of folks don't realize that you can actually create your own pension plan that you can control, right? That you can start and stop. So if you're with a company and you leave and you have an old 401k sitting there or, a pension plan sitting there, you don't know what to do with it. Some folks just leave it there because they don't know that they can actually move that over into their own pension plan and not have to pay any taxes and penalties and continue to let that money grow until they need it. And they may have the option to, have the option to protect the principal, may have the option to give themselves future guaranteed income. Maybe it's a death benefit. That's why you work with an advisor to kind of see how that works. Another example I use right here is the lottery. So back in the day, you hear the stories about people hitting the super lotto, right? And they had an option of taking a lump sum or taking annuity payments. Those are the guaranteed fixed monthly payments that come out for the next 20, 30 years. Those are the things that you can kind of get with an annuity. So when we're working with our clients, an annuity may be a good fit for maybe that soon bucket, or maybe even that later on bucket. So again, if it's a good fit and it fits into their plan, it could definitely be a benefit to the client. So again, an annuity is typically a contract between you and an insurance company to put some guarantees and protections either around your principal or your future income, or maybe a death benefit. Okay. But annuities are not for everybody, because when you invest or decide to go with an annuity, you may need to leave those monies there for a certain period of time. So that's why it's super important to understand how the annuity may be a good fit to the puzzle of what you're trying to do. May not be a good fit for everybody, may not be a good fit for all of your money, but for some of that money that you're looking to protect, it may actually be a godsend. That's why I have clients who came through 2007 and 2009 unscathed, because they had protection around their portfolio, but they also knew they weren't going to be touching that money for a certain period of time. So then it's just understanding how the annuity works and how you can access it. So again, it's not for everybody. It sounds great. Hey, who wouldn't want your principal 100% protected? Who wouldn't want the option to have guaranteed future income? But you need to understand how it's a piece of the puzzle. It's not the entire puzzle. So you may kind of, we're nearing the end of this, y'all. I'm going to open up here for questions, but you may want to say, man, okay, Perry, what is the process to put a plan together so that I can protect my money, right? But the process is simple. Get educated on the money cycle. We've done that already. Step 2, get educated on the bucket plan. We've talked about that. So let's go back to the money cycle, right? So you have the accumulation phase, you have the preservation phase, and you have the distribution phase. Great. That bucket's plan. You know what I'm saying? You have the now bucket, the soon bucket, the later on bucket. Step 3, if you want to move forward, complete an asset questionnaire where we'll kind of take a look at your assets for you and see what you have and how you're currently investing. Uh-oh. Had another Microsoft shutdown. So bear with me here, y'all. We'll get this fixed in 2 seconds. My apologies. Technology, boy, when it works, it works. But we ain't worried about that. We worried about getting this information out here to you. Okay. All right, y'all still with me? Bear with me here. Let's get our screen back up here. Okay, y'all. My apologies for that again. And we are going to get back to it here. Okay, cool. So what's the process? Educate on the money cycle, educate on the bucket plan, complete the asset questionnaire, completed the income gap assessment where we just get an idea of, how much income you may need down the road, so we know exactly how much you need to invest. We'll check your volatility, if you will, tolerance. So just, everybody shouldn't be aggressive. You have some people who are more aggressive in nature, some people are more conservative. So if you're more conservative in nature, then you shouldn't be aggressive. But we want to make sure that you're positioned the right way just so you're set up appropriately. And then we can actually help you design a bucket plan. So this is what we do for our clients. So in short, how to protect your money during a stock market crash is to make sure you have a comprehensive plan. You understand the risk to investing, which are the market risk, right? Interest rate risk, and also going to be your sequence of returns risk, right? Understanding the money cycle. Where are you in the money cycle? Are you in the accumulation phase, the preservation phase, or the distribution phase? And then making sure that you have a bucket plan which addresses all of that with all the different styles of accounts. Okay. So again, Perry Jeffries here. If you have questions, you can contact me at diamondequityadvisors.com. You can schedule an appointment with me at www.mycfoaskme. You can get right onto my calendar. And that's it for the PowerPoint here. Let's stop sharing that. And I'm going to jump in here, y'all, and see if we got any questions on there. Still here, the same. Okay, cool. All right, y'all. So Apologies on the technical difficulties. Some things you can't control. I only can worry about the things I can control, and what I can control is getting you guys this information. So if you have some questions, feel free to unmute yourself and throw them out there. And I'll say the same thing I used to say when I was a school teacher back in the day. No question is a bad question, because if you have a question, it's a good likelihood that somebody else has the same question. So anybody have any questions, you can type them in. You can unmute yourself. We're live right now recording this. So here, got to get back to work, but this was helpful. You're more than welcome, my friend. Anybody else have any questions out there before we disconnect? And unmute yourself. I think I gave you guys the option to unmute yourself. Can you unmute yourself? Yep, you guys should be able to unmute yourself. So if you want to talk, say anything. Okay. All right, group. Well, that is it for today. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully that information was valuable. Again, apologize for the technical difficulties. We'll get that whole piece figured out. But I will get a recording of this out to you guys. And man, you know what I'm saying? Look forward to connecting with you next week. Next week, we're going to discuss how to create a guaranteed paycheck, future paycheck for yourself during Life Insurance Month. And we'll talk about a couple different products then as well. So feel free, after you get the video, if it was valuable, share it with somebody, tell somebody. Our goal is to try to educate as many people as possible and just add value to your lives. And that's it. So I'll talk to y'all later. We'll go from there. Perry Jeffries here, the Entrepreneur CFO. Talk to you soon.